Hey everybody. I'm a little nervous here in 2020 about saying, oh gosh, what's some glare, right? About saying people don't know because I'm concerned that I'm going to end up like in the same position as Donald Trump, in which I don't know that people do know about a topic, but I haven't seen anybody else working with this so far. So I thought I would sort of go out on a limb and say maybe many people, I don't know about most, but perhaps many people don't know this. Did you know that you can use Tumblr and other social media sites to take good research notes? Yeah. And tag and find what you took notes on and remember all your sources and relate them to one another. You don't have to make it public either. So that's one thing that people might be concerned about is making their research notes public because obviously the piece that you are taking notes on is something that's in most cases going to be publicly available. But the notes that you take are your own intellectual property. Like you have the right to them, no one else does. So people might be shy or cautious about uploading or sharing publicly the notes that they are taking as they conduct research. I know I am. But you can set Tumblr or a lot of other social media sites to have a private page. And you can still use, most of the same basic functionality. You just wouldn't be sharing the information, wouldn't be sharing the posts. So I'm going to use Tumblr as an example, partly because it's one that I'm very familiar with, but also because Tumblr is free. It does facilitate creating private posts and private secondary blogs. And because the tagging function in Tumblr is really very flexible and very sophisticated compared to similar tagging functions on other platforms. So if you want to use Tumblr to take research notes, this is how you do it. You take a photo or a screenshot if you're reading online of the key piece that you want to sort of take notes on, and you share that to you create a photo post or whatever, and you can drag and drop into a text post. It doesn't really matter. And so there's your, this is the piece that you're going to annotate. And so in order to take notes on it, you want to put in the caption or in the text box the author's name and the date or the page number, the information that will lead you back there, right? So not a formal citation unless you just want to, right? Like if you want to go ahead and get your bibliography out of the way, you can go ahead and create an MLA style works cited entry right there in the post. But I normally don't, right? I frequently wait until the end and then I frantically do it all at the last minute. But if you want to be responsible and do your bibliography information up front, you can. Anyway, whatever you put, it should lead you, not necessarily your reader, but lead you back to the individual article or book or journal or whatever it is that you are taking notes on. And then you also add as a caption or in a text box your notes. Or if you just really like taking notes by hand, but you want to use this as a way to organize them, you take your notes by hand and you take a picture and you upload it alongside the piece that you're annotating. Anyway, so you have your piece that you are examining and you have your notes, however you decided to upload them. And then the key is the tagging function. So you want to be sure to tag each project. And you want to tag by theme and maybe also by author, depending on if you are really interested in a particular scholar, or if you are interested in, or if you are using several different pieces by the same scholar. So it's kind of depend to some degree on the scope of your project, but I would suggest tagging by which term paper this is, right? So kind of what this is my English 112 paper, or this is my term paper for Cultural Studies 873 or whatever. Okay, you want to tag by theme, so genre, or tag by intertextuality : parody, right? So it's only parodic instances of intertextuality, and maybe intertextuality : quotations, or intertextuality : GIFs, because I talk a lot in my research about intertextuality in GIFs. So it's on my mind. Or if like maybe you're working on, I've got a student who's working on injury prevention in sports. Okay, so athletes, colon, engagement, athletes, colon, training protocols, athletes, colon, rate of injury. And then you might have like injuries, knee, injuries, overuse, right? And you'll probably want to have some other tags as well. It's going to depend on your project, but you want to have at least a couple of tags that you are working with at any given time, because when you are organizing your research notes and putting things together, you want to be able to look back at your notes and see, okay, you want to be able to click on the tag on your blog that says intertextuality parody. And that's going to pull up all of the posts that you've made that you have tagged with intertextuality parody. But then you might, like, you want to relate that to something else, right? So you open another browser tab and you click on the tag that says intertextuality quotations. And now you have two lists that you can cross-reference, because some of your research material is going to probably involve both of those. Some of it will only be one or the other. And for each tag that you create, you can pull a list of everything that you have used that tag on, right? So every time that you take a note in which an author mentions gender in Jane Austen, you've got it tagged. If the same post is also related to family dynamics, you can see that, okay? So that's how you can use Tumblr's fairly sophisticated tagging platform or tagging function as a way of organizing your research notes. And you can also use the sort of multimodal capabilities where you can juxtapose photos with typed text. You can very easily create multimedia versions of your research notes that make it very easy to go back and find, like, oh, okay, this is where I thought about that. Here are sets of posts that belong together. If you want to create like a separate blog for each project, you can. If instead you want to have a blog for each semester, if you want to have like a tag that is for each course, like all of these are ways to organize your notes that can incorporate handwritten note-taking and can incorporate traditional print research, but can also be printed out, like back from the digital, and can also be used to store digitally your work. It can serve as a reference for potentially as long as you continue in academia. And I mean, you could also use it for like tagging recipes or something too. But most of the major social media platforms are going to have something similar. Medium works on a similar system. So does WordPress. I don't think that their tagging functions are quite as sophisticated as Tumblr's. And with Medium, you can't really change your own layout very much. Like on Tumblr, I could pull up my list from any given tag and turn it into a grid, which is nice. I don't think that Instagram has a private option, but I might be wrong about that because I don't use Instagram very much. These are just some thoughts, right? Like on how to make research part of, like, it's not this thing that's set aside and it's like you have to learn totally different skills for conducting research and annotations that don't relate to the way you're used to navigating the web or your device or whatever. You can use the skills you already have. And honestly, if you are not using those skills in your research, you may be missing something, right? I'm pretty old school with my research, but what I really like about the way and as a scholar on digital cultures is that there's really not this big divide that we sometimes imagine there to be between the digital and the physical space. Like, no, you're moving back and forth all the time. Like, just like there's no divide between, you know, the world I'm living in and the book I pick up. I mean, like, obviously I'm not literally in the book, but you're interfacing on different fronts all the time. And leaning into that and making use of all of the modalities around us is part of how we can kind of expand our mental and communicative repertoire. So I hope this is helpful. If you have questions, I'd be happy to talk you through. Good luck and happy researching. Bye.